Stephen, a very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike.
Now, we all know that the justice system is not working terribly well at the moment, but this doesn't seem like the greatest idea that Labour have ever had, to do away with jury trials, because not all trials are jury trials anyway, are they?
They're not all jury trials, and the type of trials that I appear in aren't jury trials. We had to get rid of them during the First World War, so my type of justice had to, for practical reasons, get rid of juries.
Yeah.
Now, that's fine in my area of law, because what we're dealing with is the transfer of money from one place to another.
Right.
And we've got perfectly good appeal courts, and there's a lot of liquidity in the system to pay for everything. So there's enough money to pay for the lawyers to do everything properly. Crime is a very special situation. Crime is the deprivation of your liberty by the state. It is taking away your freedom and putting you in prison for an offence against the state. I know it's become very popular to talk about victims, but really what crime is actually doing is saying that you are damaging society by having done X. Therefore, you will be punished in this way.
Right.
We have juries for that for a very good reason. It's not at all clear that the punishment of individuals should fall to one person. I mean, I have the deepest respect for our judges, but the idea that one human being will make the decision instead of 12 has to be inherently worrying. It doesn't matter how clever or brilliant or talented or able that one person is, it's going to be less good than 12 people making that decision.
And also what we saw in the summer with the kind of, fast-track justice that resulted in an awful lot of people being locked up for things which perhaps 6 months earlier they wouldn't have been locked up for at all, would suggest that the system can be kind of hijacked, because a lot of these people were advised, in inverted commas, by lawyers to plead guilty, because that way they would probably get a less harsh sentence. It turned out not to be the case. They got very harsh sentences. They pleaded guilty. They all went through the system very quickly, and they're now all sitting in prison. So, I mean, if that's their version of getting rid of a backlog, I don't think I'm too keen on it, to be honest.
Well, again, this is why you don't have one person making the decision, because it's much easier to influence, nobble, say, use whatever phrase you want, but it's much easier to influence one person than it is to influence 12.
Yes.
You're going to, and that is the inherent problem. We have to recognize, I think, our weaknesses as human beings. We are not divine beings. We're not magical creatures. We've got flaws and failings. That's absolutely fine. We just devise systems to deal with that. And we've devised the jury to address our human failings. We devised it quite a few hundred years ago. It's a pretty good system, and we shouldn't just throw it out the window just because government is a bit worried about penny pinching.
Yeah, exactly right.
Effectively, that's what this is doing. And Mike, I do think we have massively underfunded the criminal justice system for far too long, and perhaps overfunded other areas of justice like immigration.
Yeah, absolutely right. No question about that. Because one of the other problems is that it's all very well saying we'll catch up with some of the backlog because we'll just sentence more people quicker, or we'll get more people out through the door quicker and plead not guilty, whatever. There's nowhere to put them if they're guilty of an imprisonable offence, is there? Because they haven't got any room in the prisons either.
No, we've completely let prisons collapse as well. But I think this is because our state is fundamentally failing to produce and to do what we expect it to do.
Yeah.
It's trying.
I think you could have ended that sentence at failing, I think.
Well, but it's true. We need to push back. We should not accept less good service. We should not accept, this sort of secondary, beta, performance from the state. We need it to perform. And instead, what the state is doing is being a massive employer.
Yeah.
It doesn't do any job. It doesn't provide any services. None of us can get GP appointments. But the state nonetheless provides vast employment for a huge number of people not obviously doing anything.
No.
We need to go back to the state functioning. We need to have prisons that work. We need to have a criminal justice system which is fair, because you know what, Mike? People who don't belong in prison shouldn't be there just because one person made the decision instead of 12.
Yes. No, I think that's absolutely right. And what about the way that these backlogs affect your business, as it were, because I'm always hearing from barristers that, you know, we're not all wealthy, we're not all loaded with money, driving around in Lamborghinis. There's quite a lot of, you know, legal aid barristers, for example, who don't make very much money at all. I mean, they were on strike, it seems to me, I think about, what, a year ago or so? How's that all going? Are they still, is there a recruitment crisis for barristers?
There is still massive underfunding in criminal law. And we need to talk about that specifically, because that is a massive problem. State money goes into things like immigration law, where illegal immigrants get appeal after appeal after appeal paid for by the taxpayer, and yet criminal justice, which affects us, actually is massively underfunded. And I think we need to have a very grown-up conversation about where the state spends money on lawyers, because the state is spending vast amounts of money on lawyers. So the people on one side who say that, you know, you can't complain about the state spending on lawyers, it's like, actually you can. Yeah. But it's not, is it being spent on things that we actually care about? Because to me, it seems to me that a functioning criminal justice system is something we really do care about and really do need, because none of us want an innocent person in prison. You know, that is not what we want, but we do all want guilty people in prison.
Yeah, totally.
So let's have a proper system that actually works. But no, in their absolute defence, and they did have a strike, and I don't think they necessarily covered it terribly well with PR, and I'm not necessarily their friend most days, but they are underfunded. Criminal legal aid are the lawyers who deserve your sympathy. There are other types of lawyers who do not deserve your sympathy, but they do.
Yeah, divorce lawyers in particular, I would say. But thank you very much indeed, Steven Barrett there, talking to us about the state of the justice system, because there's some talk of getting rid of jury trials at levels which are down below the level of sort of the very, very highest courts in the land. Very bad idea.